All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome on behalf of the Crowddreaming Project Consortium at the Crowddreaming Youth Co-Create Digital Culture online conference. My name is Borut Cink, and I'll be your host today. This is the final or one of the final acts of the Crowddreaming project that started 28 months ago. It's been a long but successful journey. And today we want to share with you the results of a collaboration that included 5 project partners, more than 100 teachers and tutors, more than 1,600 students and young people from Croatia, Greece, Italy, and Latvia. But before starting, let's quickly take a look at the agenda to see the roadmap ahead of us. So we'll start with a welcome and introduction to the conference, continue with the 2 extremely interesting keynotes. And then, as you see, we kind of zoom out. The keynotes will be about the future. Then we're going to zoom in to the project again to present you the policy recommendations that we produced in the project. And then we're going to zoom out again with the panel debate with distinguished guests from civil society and European institutions, a well-deserved coffee break at 4 o'clock before embarking to the final part of the event, where we present concrete project results, introduce you to the Europa Square platform, and then finally enable you the virtual experience of the digital monument we call Europa Square. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Peter Palvoldyi, our CEO. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Borut. Let me share my screen. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the CDDC Crowddreaming Project Final Conference, the project which has been implemented by ODigital with 4 member organizations. My name is Peter Palvoldyi, CEO of ODigital. And first of all, I would like to say a few words about ODigital, this European network of digital competence centers. We are a pan-European association based in Brussels, currently representing 70 member organizations who work with 20,000 digital competence centers across Europe, who are supporting the development of digital skills of 1.5 million Europeans every year by providing training, support, and advice. Our focus is on all people who need to develop their digital skills. And we believe that everyone should be able to benefit from digital transformation. Our focus areas include the development of basic digital skills, but we put a lot of focus on advanced digital skills to support employment and employability, digital media literacy, as well as digital cultural heritage. This week is All Digital Week, and this Monday we organized a high-level opening event when Commissioner Maria Gabriel said that in this time of crisis and social disruption, digital skills and competencies have become more important than ever. Basic digital skills are not just good to have, but they have become a necessity. And indeed, those lacking digital skills are at risk of exclusion, not only from everyday social practices, but also from education and professional opportunities. And that's why we need to do a lot of awareness raising activities to support all those who don't have sufficient digital skills to respond to the challenges of digital transformation. The All Digital Week is an annual pan-European campaign organized by ODigital, its member organizations, and other partner organizations. And the aim of the campaign is to engage and empower thousands of citizens to use digital technology to enhance their digital skills. And our motto this year is "Be a digital hero," or everyone can be a digital hero. And we put the focus this year on educators, who are the real digital heroes of our days. This is the map of events which are happening during this week, and we already have 108 partner organizations, 355 events and almost 90,000 participants reached. And the numbers are accelerating, and more events are being organized in the coming days. During All Digital Week, All Digital and partners organize a series of events and webinars, and the CDDC Crowddreaming Project final event is a part of this program. And I would just like to highlight a few upcoming events. Tomorrow we will have the STEAM on Edu webinar, and we will highlight the central role of educators and aims to support them in implementing STEAM education. Then next week we will have the Open AE webinar to present the free, libre, open source software, the so-called FLOSS culture, and how we can implement it at work, employment, and adult education. And I see a lot of library backgrounds among the participants, so it might be an interest for you to join the Biblio webinar next Wednesday, boosting digital skills and competencies for librarians, and we'll talk about the new trends and requirements in the professional development of librarians. And there is a link where you can visit all the events and even the past events, because we uploaded the recording. So even if you missed an event, you feel free to visit our website, or the alldigitalweek.eu website, and follow the events. 2 days ago, we launched our new online digital skills self-assessment tool, which we call mydigiskills.eu, and that helps users to understand their digital competences. It is based on the digital competence framework, the Digicom 2.1, and cover 6 proficiency levels. And currently, this tool is available in 7 languages: English, German, Italian, Latvian, Lithuanian, and Romanian, and more languages will come. And finally, projects like CDDC Crowddreaming and many others, all digital, participating in addresses social challenges in collaboration with various stakeholders, universities, digital competence centers, training organizations, civil society organizations, with the support of the European Union, to provide real solutions that benefit people and the society. Thank you very much, and I'm zooming back to you, Borut.
Thank you, Peter, for presenting All Digital. And I would like to invite another speaker from All Digital, Professor Achilles Kameas, our chair of the board. Dr. Kameas, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you, Borut. Dear colleagues and participants, thank you for joining us today in the final event of Project Crowddreaming, in which youth co-create digital culture. Project CDDC, as we call it, is funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union under the KA3 Social Inclusion and Common Values strand. The total duration of the project was 28 months. It started in January 2019 and will finish this April 2021. The project involved 5 partners from 5 countries. It was coordinated by All Digital and with the participation of the Center for Technical Culture, Rijeka from Croatia, the Hellenic Open University from Greece, Stati Generali dell'Innovazione from Italy, and LICTA from Latvia, representatives of which are with us today and will participate in this event, and you will get to meet them later. The project scaled up at the European level the Crowddreaming method, that is an Italian good practice in the field of the valorization of digital cultural heritage. It was scaled up as a means to achieve inclusive education and to achieve the promotion of European values among youngsters. Cultural heritage is an invaluable resource, enabling us to reflect on history and critically engage with it, helping us to identify not only different memories, but also the common threads that bind us all, thus promoting diversity, dialogue, cohesion, solidarity, and mutual understanding as well as enriching our knowledge of our tangible, intangible, natural and digital assets. Because it contributes to the development of key competencies among young people and to the promotion of European values among them, it should have a vital role in all forms of education, formal, non-formal, and informal. This is one of the things that this project has proven. And because teachers are the pillars of education, the CDDC project provides teachers with the necessary knowledge, competencies, and digital cultural heritage skills. Through them, through our teachers, it empowers young people in the acquisition and development of cultural heritage and heritage-related skills and knowledge and competencies in common history, intercultural dialogue, critical thinking, media literacy, creativity, and digital skills. Students participating in the project were asked to produce materials for the construction of the digital monument, which is mainly based on multiculturality and the theme of Thanksgiving. Students worked on a research basis on how their local and national cultures have influenced or have been influenced by other countries' cultures, and will reflect on how European cultures are interconnected and vital for the development of national and European identities. We know that youngsters usually start from a point of view centered on their own regional and national culture, assuming by default that it is most valuable to anyone, as the true center of global culture. Well, not only youngsters actually, but only if they are guided by trained teachers, they can become able to switch this point of view and start identifying common values and cultural understanding with other countries. This is how students begin to thank other cultures. Then this is the starting point for the construction of Europa Square, a digital monument, an online stage where youngsters and teachers can meet in a multicultural laboratory on the theme of digital cultural heritage. To facilitate this change, CDDC relied on storytelling and used it to provide the conceptual framework of digital culture. The content of the digital stories can vary from historical, artistic, archaeological, sociological, modern, or referencing the past. To achieve the above, the project created an online platform for sharing knowledge, good practices, and digital cultural innovations in education. And it also delivered a comprehensive learning program to introduce teachers on digital cultural heritage and how to teach it to the students, using augmented reality and digital tools for digital storytelling, and how to use them for developing of digital Thanksgiving scenes in the classes. These scenes you will see, they have been all included in the Europa Square, and you will see them later today. CDDC introduces culture to education using cutting-edge technologies, such as augmented reality and virtual reality, which has been proposed as a predominant type of digital content for digital culture collections. Thus, CDDC not only empowered teachers to develop advanced digital skills, but also enabled them to include novel technologies in their educational practice, in some way anticipating the demands that so strikingly arose during the pandemic era. In the project framework, new technologies became an excellent tool in teachers' hands for the dissemination of cultural elements and the visualization of knowledge, and offer a more direct and suitable learning process for the students of the 21st century. If we fast forward the 28 months of the project, the impact of CDDC looks impressive. The project consortium developed, delivered, and tested the Crowddreaming learning program, including a MOOC for teachers and workshops with young people in 4 project countries: Croatia, Greece, Italy, and Latvia. The program was completed by 137 teachers. More than 1,600 young people between 13 and 19 years of age were involved in 210 Crowddreaming workshops that resulted in 236 digital Thanksgiving scenes produced by young people. All these figures are extremely impressive for a European project. All of this would not be possible, of course, without the support of the 15 national tutors and teachers who collaborated with us in the project. And all of this work and efforts come together in the Europa Square digital monument, which we will all visit later today. Impressive results. I would like to use this opportunity to thank all the teachers and students who have participated in the project and helped us make Crowddreaming a reality. Many thanks also to all project partners and tutors for your hard work over the past 2 years. And let us not forget that this was done amidst the lockdowns, which makes your success even more significant. And special thanks I would like to extend to Borut, who successfully coordinated the project during turbulent times and prepared this rich event for us. Now, moving from the classrooms to the policy arena and zooming out at EU level, we can see that the mainstreaming of cultural policy and fostering of cross-sectional cooperation with other policies such as education, economy, and international relations have been put on the forefront of European and national cultural policy frameworks. At the same time, lifelong development of competencies is mentioned in almost every European Commission policy. Take, for example, the European Skills Agenda. While the recently published Digital Education Action Plan and 2030 Digital Compass put digital skills at the forefront, the potential of digital skills is improved when they are combined with a plenitude of other competencies, for example, green, entrepreneurial, life, all of them significant for personal and professional development, for inclusion in modern society, for being an informed and active citizen. All Digital has been a long time an active supporter of digital inclusion. In our manifesto for digital competencies, we propose measures and actions to be taken towards this end. With a multitude of activities, including the projects in which we participate, we strive to put in practice and improve European policies on digital inclusion. The contribution of CDDC Project in this regard is an affirmation of the positive impacts of these policy directions with concrete results, analysis, and evaluation. Education is a process we have at hand to achieve these developments, and teachers are the main actors in this process. In an ever-changing world, education is constantly innovating and improving to develop new and better ways to effectively transmit knowledge, skills, and attitudes. It is clear to everyone, especially after the pandemic period, that heavy investment in new instruments are needed to support education and teachers. And this is one of the crucial lessons learned from the CDDC project. Support is the key action that will translate the guiding principles, values, and directions of cultural and educational policies into concrete activities and results. Systemic support that is manifested by financial means, infrastructure, sustainability, and decision-making on top levels. And individual support, like the one given to schools by enabling them to open their doors to collaborations and experimentations, to teachers by supporting them in upskilling and innovation, and to students by encouraging them to dream and dare. When support is provided, it is projects like CDDC, programs like Erasmus+, and dedicated people like teachers, students, and tutors from Croatia, Greece, Italy, and Latvia that come together to create real and meaningful impact for individuals and society. I wish you a successful event. And Borut, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Achilles. Thank you for your words, for framing the project, describing the project and framing the project in a wider policy arena, policy framework. We're going to continue on this level, sort of, because we're moving to the next activity. I'm honored to present you the next two speakers. Both are distinguished experts in the field of culture, especially digital cultural heritage and innovation in this field. Representing different generations and coming from two corners of Europe, I would like you to warmly welcome Matevž Štraus and Gunnar Liestøl. I'll do the applause because we are not in the same room, but I'm sure that you are joining me in front of your screens. First to take the floor is Matevž, who's a Heritage Plus lead at high-performance computing company Arctur and a co-founder of ID20 Institute for Heritage Innovations in Idrija, Slovenia. He has been working at the intersection of cultural heritage, social innovation, youth policies, and urban strategies for the past 10 years. He led several award-winning projects on innovating heritage and is the initiator of Heritage Lab, a 2018 winner of EU Social Innovation Competition. Matevž will be sharing with us what kind of innovation can we expect in the cultural heritage field in the future. Dear Matevž, thank you again for joining us, and please take over the Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Also, thank you for inviting me, and I'm honored, of course, to speak in front of you. And I'll be happy also to hear your comments and your feedback on what we are thinking in our team. So, as I already said, and as already Borut also said, I mostly deal with cultural heritage, and I think that we all that work in the field of cultural heritage can agree that cultural heritage makes us what we are, right? I mean, we are what was there in front of us, and we of course change that, adapt, build on that. So our past shapes the perception of our present, and of course on this present we build the future.
So, sorry, Matevž, just to let you know that you have the presenters mode on, so we see the next slides. I don't know if that's intended or not. And no worries, it happens to the best of us all the time. So,
but you see it now also.
Yeah, we still see the basically what you are supposed to see. I mean, what helps you with the presentation.
Better.
Excellent.
Okay. Technology. Yeah, so culture heritage makes us what we are, and I come from Slovenia, the small country nestled between other much greater countries. But even here, or maybe especially here, we see how cultural heritage is important. So this is a map of Slovenia with all the registered immovable cultural heritage. So this is just one small segment of all the cultural heritage that exists out there, located on this map. And we see that actually cultural heritage is everywhere. The only white areas are the areas where there has been no human settlement for centuries. And those of you who know Slovenia, these are really deep forests or high mountains. And cultural heritage, because it's in a way we see it's evenly distributed, right? I mean, almost evenly distributed. It's almost everywhere. It's deeply rooted and deeply connected to the local DNA of these places, and it is a source of stories, a source of very interesting stories that not many of them have been told already or have been told to a wider audience. But of course, we can agree that this immense potential that cultural heritage has, either for storytelling or for shaping our identities or for developing our communities, still remains untapped for different reasons, of course. And actually, with the advent of digital technologies, we are at this very crucial moment, a risky moment of our human evolution, where these roots can get lost. Why? Let's just look at one number that I have. It's an old statistics, but now 3 years later and 1 year of pandemics later, I'm actually afraid to look at this data. So youngsters between 16 and 24 years old spent on average 43 hours per week online. That was, as I said, 3 years ago, and now the statistics must have been much higher. They are spending, and they will be spending their time in all of these virtual environments and these mixed reality environments that are out there. So, and you know that exist actually many different medias, some of them more interactive, some of them less interactive. This field is developing very fast. So we are in a way about to live in a mixed reality where this digital, of course, will not just substitute the real world. We should not be afraid that we will stop living in the real world and then we will only live in a digital world. Actually, these two will merge. We see already that, of course, the telephones have become an extension of our hands. The internet has become the extension of our minds in a way. So we live already with these digital extensions. and with new technologies, with faster connections, with better hardware, this will even accelerate. And in this world, we could forget the past, because in this new mixed reality, we can bring into the real world, we can bring Pokemons, different made up characters, different legends that have no real connection to our past, and we could, in a way, forget our history, and we could substitute it with an imagined history, which of course will not be a history. So we are in this point where that could happen quite easily, and we should not be afraid that the museums will just close, or that they will just vanish. No, they will be out there, but not so many people will visit them, and they won't have a prominent role. So it is for us, our generation, that needs to, in a way, take care that our cultural roots are also transmitted into this new mixed reality. So that not just fictional characters such as Pokemons become part of this fictional reality, but that real stories, our history, our common past is transmitted into this digital world. And of course, we can do this by digitizing. And for decades, the public institutions and the policy has really struggled to digitize as many historic artifacts that are out there, but of course only a small part of cultural heritage, because of its greatness, is actually digitized and available to public. So looking at Europe, and again, the data is not the newest, but the percentages are low. So most of the percentages are below 20% of cultural heritage. Even when we ask museums in how many years they will meet their goals regarding digitization, some of them are even saying it in decades or in hundreds of years. So this rate we see is not fast enough. And we also can agree that just making digital copies of cultural heritage will not do the job. It's just archiving digital copies is not enough. We need to take care that this cultural heritage is part of this new mixed reality life. And of course, again, digital technologies are the ones that help us here, because using digital technologies, we can add additional digital layer on top of the existing physical one. And using this digital layer, we can tell some information and tell some stories that are impossible to tell using the normal physical ways of communicating, or the oral ways of communicating. So digital technologies can really change this the value of cultural heritage, the value chain of cultural heritage in different areas, either in the documentation area, exhibition area, or later on promotion and reuse of that cultural heritage. But of course, every such story starts with the very beginning, starts with digitization. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this or how many of you distinguish between the word digitization and digitalization, but we find it quite crucial. So when digitization means only creating digital copies of physical artifacts, digitalization means digitizing the processes. So how we deal with this cultural heritage or these digital artifacts. And only later on, we can expect our whole society to change. And this, of course, is partially driven by the development of technologies, but not fully. What is here very important is that these changes and these steps that we are making, that they are complementary with the skills that we are developing. So the skills that, in a way, the skills should drive this development further. And these skills should be democratized. They should not be part of the technology companies. They should be part of every institution, because only later on we can expect the whole area and the whole sector to change itself and to progress into the future that we want to see. So as we see, so it's not just the skills and technology, it's the hybrid skills. So the connection between these different areas that until now have for a very long time been very separate areas, often in contradiction with each other, often in conflict even between each other. This requires new collaborations. And only later on we can expect some multiplier effects. And of course, emergence of new markets, which after all is important also. And this is how we at Arctur, a high-tech company from Slovenia, envision the field of cultural heritage in the future. And this is what we call Heritage Plus. For us, the ideal project is not a technological project purely. It's a project that combines 4 different areas. So besides technology, one important area is storytelling. So it's the ability to tell the story and to transmit the value of cultural heritage to your audience. And here, of course, the audiences are different, and the way we want to tell the story depends on these audiences. Then we need to combine these skills with expertise skills and expertise knowledge. So how to actually protect and preserve the cultural heritage and the values of cultural heritage. And the 4th area is sustainability. So, and here we mean not only environmental sustainability, but sustainability of the results, also the financial viability, which is important after all. So, as I said before, it's not just about digitizing, even though digitizing is a very important part. It's about how do we build on that digital artifacts. So we at our company, we use different technologies to make digital copies of cultural heritage. We mostly deal with 3D objects, so 3D digital cultural heritage. But the most important parts begin after that, when we start on building on these digital twins, when we start to digitally reconstructing these elements, and later on when we try to showcase them again through different medias to different audiences. And here, what's important is that we have to acknowledge that not all of these technologies are suitable for all of the audiences and for all of the messages that we want to tell. And this is, we see, an important skill that one needs to have, is how to recognize what do you want to tell, to whom do you want to tell, and only later on what tool will you use to tell that story, the digital tool that you want to use. And this, in a way, is the basis of our work. So as I said before, we often start with taking digital copies of the real world cultural heritage on the terrain. This can be either, as we've seen before, using laser scanning or using photogrammetry, using drones, supercomputers, geodetic equipment to create point clouds. So to create this kind of abstract captures of reality that are later on developed into 3D models. And these 3D models, as I said, can be regarded as digital twins that can be transmitted into this new mixed reality and can be places where virtual games are happening, or places where augmented reality applications are built on. Also, what's interesting is using these technologies to tell the stories of how things used to be. So here we have an example of remnants of a Hallstatt house, so an archaeological site. But currently, of course, it's very hard to imagine what used to be there. But using 3D modeling, we can simulate these buildings, and we can easily tell the story how certain houses were built or how people used to live. And later on, this can be told to or communicated with the audiences, in this case using mobile apps and different tools that are easily accessible today on the on users' phones. Another example, again, of reconstructions that we are working on, or not necessarily reconstructions of a building as you've seen before, but here we have a reconstruction of a garden, a Baroque garden. Again, that will be communicated with the audience using a web app and a quite simple but effective game developed around one building. Here we have an example, for example, of two 3D models. The left one is the existing one, the real one, and on the right we have a reconstruction from 19th century. And this is not only this is a source of new ways of communicating about how do we renovate, what's worth renovating, why to renovate, and what materials, for example, to use. Maybe another example from this same castle that I've shown before, of how to tell or how to explain people what used to be in certain areas. You see that basically at the moment one part of the castle is demolished, but using 3D modeling we can reconstruct that part. So yeah, these are some of the thoughts that we are working on, some of the projects that we are also developing. I'll be happy to answer to any of your questions. If you have them, I'll be also happy to connect with you later on. And again, thank you, all digital team, for inviting me, and I wish you a great success with the event.
Thank you very much, Matevž. Very inspiring. I can see connections with the Crowddreaming, or in generally speaking, how also to use all of this. This is basically then, I'll use maybe not the wrong word, it's kind of a playground then to also develop learning and teaching activities for all generations. And I think this is an awesome opportunity that is being offered by the digital tools and digitalization of our age. Moving on, because the time is pressing, our second speaker comes from Norway, Oslo. Dr. Gunnar Liestøl is a professor at Department of Media and Communications at University of Oslo. He has developed several hypermedia and augmented reality systems, including the award-winning Kon-Tiki Interactive and Old Narva. His research and development is focused on the theory and practice of digital genre design in situated and sensory media, in particular mobile augmented reality. Published apps from the projects include Roman Forum, Palasarma, Omaha Beach, Old Narva, and more. Gunnar will share with us his take on how to connect augmented reality, cultural heritage, and education. Dear Gunnar, thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you here, and Zoom is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this exciting event. And there's a lot of people joining. I've never been to a Zoom meeting with 127 members, and it's still working. It's fascinating. So my background is in general literature and media studies from the humanities side. So in our project, the SITSIM lab project, which has a lot of funding from different sources, the main aim is to explore the sort of communicative potential of augmented reality. And we're particularly focusing on storytelling, narrative design, rhetorical devices, and so on. So we're trying to do a type of media design informed by the competencies, theories, and concepts of the humanities. And I'm going to take you through a couple of examples that we have been working on for the past 3 years. Now it's sort of jumped all the way away. I think, oh yeah. So here is this is an illustration from the application that we have been developed, or the publication platform that we have been developing over the past 10 years. It's from the Roman Forum. People may recognize it, and it's a feature that's inside the application where you can actually take a picture with a physical camera at the same time you take a picture with a virtual camera. And I think this is an illustration. It illustrates what I find fascinating about augmented reality, and it's the relationship between the now and the then, between the two dimensions that you combine on a specific place. So here you can see, when you're visiting the forum, you can see you have the physical perspective, but then at the same time on the screen you have the virtual perspective with the reconstruction of the forum as it was in this case in 29 BC. And so here is a video showing the same application. This is from 2012, so it's 9 years old now. You can see it's a small iPhone and a small screen, and the resolution isn't that good. But it shows that the sensors are working, the positioning, movement, and so on, and that it actually tracks well. And when I'm looking up to the capsule, it's the same thing I can see on the reconstructed screen. And based on this platform, we try to add new features. And here you see an example of using the virtual camera to leave the physical position of the user so that you can go into the reconstructed Temple of Julius Caesar and look around inside the cella. So in this case, we're overruling the GPS information, but we're keeping the other sensors active. And I can then turn around and send the camera back to the position where I'm standing, actually standing physically in the forum. So we continue to build on this platform and explore the narrative potential of storytelling. So with this application that was published in 2012 on Android and iOS, and it was available for 3 or 4 years. Now it needs an upgrade, and we haven't had time to do that. But we tried to experiment with typical narrative device, the flashback in time. So we had the, as you can see in the top photo here, we have had the reconstruction of the Temple of Julius Caesar. But in this application, you can go back in time and get the history of why this temple is actually in that particular location. So as you go back to 44 BC and Mark Antony's eulogy for Caesar, 3 days after he died, and then we move forward a couple of hours to the other side of the forum again, where Caesar's body was cremated by the mob. And then 3 weeks later, they erected an altar and a statue. And then in 29 BC, Augustus erected the temple of Julius Caesar in front of or next to that altar. So an interesting thing with this simple story that we told in this application is that the flashback loop that we have in time is repeated in space by the movement in the forum. As we go back in time to Mark Antony's zoology, we also move to the other side of the forum. So these are the type of new challenges that location-based media in particular and augmented reality, location-based media in general and augmented reality in particular, sort of poses to us when we want to explore this type of medium, storytelling medium. And you may have noticed that we are using a full screen for this in this platform, and it's called indirect augmented reality. And this is the same solution that I later also adopted in Pokemon Go, which made augmented reality popular in the summer of 2006, where you can switch between a mixed reality mode, where you have a live video feed as a background, and then you put the Pokemon on top of that as the augmented layer. But you also have the indirect augmented reality mode where you have a full screen. And we decided early on in 2008 that we needed to go for the full screen because the GPS and a lot of the sensors weren't accurate enough to really get the graphical match when you use mixed reality. And also 2D video is not compatible with 3D graphics. They are at different dimensions. And another very interesting extra sort of bonus for selecting the full screen is that it makes these AR applications very compatible with VR. So you can explore this simulation that we developed off location, for instance, through a browser, and the same platform that you use in the project that we're honoring here, the Hubs platform. Here's an example of a collaboration we have with Georgia Tech and people that works on the Hubs platform, where they used a project we have developed over several years from the Acropolis in Athens. In this case, to the left, it was a reconstruction of the Panathenaian procession, the one that's depicted in the Parthenon frieze. And to the right, you can see what they did at Georgia Tech and took our model of the Acropolis and then made it much, much better. And it's now running on Hubs. Here is another project.
On Crete's west coast, enclosed by steep rocky cliffs, is the archaeological site of ancient Phalasana. The city of Phalasana was built as a fortified harbour in the 4th century BC as part of a plan to prevent Alexander the Great's empire from further expansion. Continued excavations have revealed fascinating chapters from the city's dramatic history. Today, the ruins and remains of this unique ancient port are on dry land and difficult to understand for the untrained eye. However, now it is possible to experience the rise and fall of ancient Phalasana on location by means of the Phalasana app. The Phalasana simulation employs a quasi-mixed reality solution where today's real environment is represented on the screen as a 3D model based on photogrammetry. This makes it easier to explain current remains and add virtual reconstructions.
The tower would have been over 20 meters tall and stood out as a landmark in ancient times.
When using the app, visitors can also explore the harbour as it may have looked in 330 BC,
Phalasana was left with a magnificent military port,
study particular artifacts in close-up and detailed view,
with the letters FA and pictures of a trident and the head of a goddess.
witness the Roman attack of Phalasana in 69 BC,
A Roman army attacked Phalasana and destroyed it. They used siege engines, which threw round stones from hundreds of meters away to destroy buildings. More than 30 catapult stones have been found. This stone has the Roman inscription XX, indicating that it weighed 20 pounds.
And consult Map View for easy navigation.
I think it's obvious that the bandwidth are having some problems with the video. So if those who don't need to have the camera feed on, you should just turn it off. And then the video will play better. In working with this platform and developing it further and further, we're not just doing cultural heritage in the sense that it's only past histories, but we have also been looking at climate change and how climate change have changed throughout history. And particularly this one is about climate change in the future. And I'll show you a quick video of that one.
Climate change is inevitable, but how will it affect us? And how may we visualize it now? Here are two prototype simulations from the ClimeSim pre-project. The first prototype uses open data on vegetation and terrain to show how vegetation zones on the west coast of Norway may change with global warming. The shaded area at the bottom represents the unknown vegetation zone in a warmer climate. This is the Opera House in Oslo on a dark winter day in February 2014. In the near future, this area will change physically. The second SitSim prototype constructs the opera and its immediate surroundings a few years ahead in time. By 2020, the Oslo Opera will be flanked by the new Deichman Public Library to the north and the controversial Lambda building, the new Edvard Munch Museum to the east. However, 200 years further ahead, things might be very different, according to some predictions. A dramatic rise in sea level has left the city abandoned and in decay. And slowly, nature is taking it back. What may have happened to the inhabitants remains to be seen.
With this project, we also did a lot of testing with students, and as a part of project work, where we had it was high school students, where they worked on climate change before visiting the Opera House and doing exploring the simulation, taking notes inside the simulation. All the students were represented by avatars, so it was a solution that's was a little bit like the Hub's platform, but when it comes to communication and avatars, it was of course simpler. And then they had an assignment where they made a story about what had happened, what could have happened from today and into the future, since you saw this very dystopic version of Oslo. And this was evaluated as a very good case and a very great success according to the teachers that took part in it. It was a unusual enthusiasm among the students. We started with the now and then relationship, and as you well know, this is a very old tradition, especially with old photos. You take an old photograph in a specific place and then you take a new picture of what it looks like today, which has been done to excellence by, among other, rephotographer Mark Klett. This is from his book about San Francisco earthquake in 1906. And then he rephotographed a lot of the pictures 100 years later in 2006. And it's actually, it's very much what we're trying to do with our AR platform. Oops. And we have a project that we did in Normandy related to D-Day. And you can see in Colleville-sur-Mer, where this church is, you have another version of the now and then image where they have put up pictures that was taken during the war in the exact position where this photo was taken. And then you could compare, if you put yourself in the right position, you can compare the old photograph with the current situation or the perspective at the place. So this is taking the photo into the position and adding here to now and then. And this is what we're doing with AR, but with AR, you also have the dynamic of movement. And I'm going to show you a brief video that we did based on excuse me?
Yeah, we're muted. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So we did a reconstruction of the D-Day on Omaha Beach, which many of you know maybe from Steven Spielberg's film Saving Private Ryan. We didn't have the same resources, but we tried about 4 years ago to make a simulation that at least tried to be very true to the documentation about the battle. But of course, the resolution and the complexity is not very...
The Allied invasion of German-occupied Western Europe was the largest military maneuver the world had ever witnessed. Thousands of rockets were launched not far from the shore. Aiming was difficult in the choppy sea. None of the rockets reached the beach obstacles, nor the German defenses. The first soldiers to arrive were a landing craft of engineers. Soon more landing crafts hit the sandbank just beyond the water as the tide began to rise. Arriving at the beach, they were an easy target for the German artillery, mortars, and machine guns. Casualties were high.
So in this simulation, we're focusing a lot of animation and the reconstruction of an actual event, historic event. And we also try to combine two narrative modes. That is the flow of the historic reconstruction of the historical event, and then that you can move into the background and access more detailed information. And this is what you saw when we touched the screen and opened a PDF document to read about a specific topic. So in this application, you can easily switch between the narrative flow of the reconstruction of the event and the background information that you may need to improve your understanding or your experience of the event. So you can move back and forth between the two modes. We're doing tracking. We have developed a separate application that tracks the sessions anonymously of the users, so we can see where each user have been walking in the terrain, that's the red line, and which actions they have carried out inside the application. And we can see, in this case, to the left, one person has walked onto the beach, and then after 8 minutes and 10 seconds, launched the balloon event, which is the hypertext link related to information about the weather on D-Day. You can also see that it's this person is looking back and forth in a line, and that's of course because it was high tide at the moment, while the other one was visiting the site during low tide and could then move further out into the area where a lot of the battle took place. So with this type of feedback, it's possible and much easier to revise the application, learn from how the users are using it and experiencing it, and then do adjustments. So based on the information we get here, we've done several revisions of this application and hopefully improved it for the users. We also test.
Sorry to interrupt you. I must ask you to slowly wrap up even though the presentation is super interesting, but we need to start with the panel. Thank you.
Okay, 1 minute or 2 minutes?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're doing a lot of testing, and I wanted to just show you the last thing where we have used gamification related to historical images, where you have, and this is from Old Narva in Lithuania that Borut, you mentioned in your introduction. So we try to make an interface to this historical collection about the old Narva, and we had access to a paper model, 1:100, and we use gamification by borrowing elements from not computer games, but from analog games, from the hide and seek hot and cold game, and from the jigsaw puzzle. And I'm going to show you a quick video. It is only 1 minute and 50 seconds.
The town hall square in Narva, Estonia, was once the center of this thriving city, strategically placed between east and west in Northern Europe, and known for its unique Baroque architecture. Old Narva was almost completely destroyed during the final stages of World War II. Today, only the town hall itself remains, and reminds us of the city's lost look. However, a large collection of historical photos, now digitized, provides fascinating documentation of the city's past appearance. How may we reuse these images in order to create new digital experiences on location? A solution to this challenge was to explore the affinities between rephotography with now and then images, playing the hide and seek game hot and cold, as well as combining visual elements like in the jigsaw puzzle. The activity of finding the photographer's position based on real-time guiding and feedback was borrowed from the hot and cold game. A 3D model of the building depicted in the photo becomes more distinct as one gets closer to the vantage point. The practice of analyzing and conjoining visual elements was adapted from the relationship between pieces in a jigsaw puzzle to the overlaps between the historical photos of the town hall square. Zones were used to provide guiding feedback for how to locate the vantage point. Users also need to pay special attention to the shared parts of overlapping and connected photos. When all the positions are found, the full 3D environment turns into color, and the old town comes to life. The reconstructed Baroque square can then be experienced against today's backdrop of Soviet apartment buildings. When pausing the sequence, one can activate the spatial hypertext links and access background information about the historical square.
Sorry about the long time. Thank you. If you want to know more about this project, it's just to go to the URL citizen.no.
Gunnar, thank you very much. I think I speak for all of us that we could dive into this for the next hour or two. It felt like a time machine going back and going forth, and it's amazing. And it's really thank you for your presentation. And these two presentations really show what the conference and also the project is all about. I mean, it's to inspire, it's to learn, to see what is available, what can we use, what is possible to use, what can we simplify, and then put it in our context, like the Crowddreaming project did. And but now we will move also from the inspiration to somewhat of a reflection with the next panel debate, and we'll do the policy recommendation later on. And the panel will be moderated by Altheo Valentini, Chair of Education Community at Europa, Board Member at All Digital, and General Director of EGINA. Altheo, it's great to have you with us. I wish you a fruitful discussion, and I pass you the moderation hat to you, and looking forward to hearing to you and your guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Borut. I first want to thank the invitation to this conference and say hi to everyone. Today is a very special occasion for me. not just because I am member of All Digital, and at the same time I'm also member of Stati dell'Innovazione, but because I go back to 4 years ago when I first met Paolo, Russo, and the Crowddreaming movement, let's say, and we were discussing how nice would have been to scale up this initiative at European level. So I'm really honored to be the moderator of this panel. I'm also aware that we do not have a lot of time, so I will just introduce our guests, and then I hope I will have the chance to discuss a little bit with them. So today for this panel, we are welcoming Hannes Heide, an Austrian cultural manager, former mayor of the city of Bad Ischl, which was European Capital of Culture in 2000, which will be European Capital of Culture in 2024, and a member of the European Parliament since 2019. He's a member of Cult and substitute member of Regi and Cont Committee. He's also member of the delegation of the ACP EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly, and Hanne is co-owner of the Learhat Theatre in Bad Ischl and president of the Lear Festival Bad Ischl. Together with Anne, we are also inviting to the panel Michael Teutsch, I hope the pronunciation is correct, head of unit for schools and multilingualism at European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. The unit is a policy and program unit contributing to the building of the European education area. Michael deals with policy cooperation in the areas of schools and multilingualism on topics such as key competence development and equity in education, teachers' professional development, etc. And also with the European flagship program Erasmus+, which the new program has just been announced today, and we are very excited. And the digital education platforms eTwinning Plus, and the European School Education Gateway. Before joining European Commission, he had worked in the German Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs and in research projects in Germany and Italy. Welcome. The third guest, just for the sake of the list, is Brikena Xhomaqi, an active, hello, hi Brikena, an active in civil society from early ages as an elected representative of different school and university student bodies. In 2010, she joined the civil society at European level, initially as elected representative of the European Students' Union. She worked as former head of office of the European Student Union and director of the Erasmus Student Network. She is now the director of the Lifelong Learning Platform, the European Civil Society for Education, and co-chair of the European Economic and Social Committee Liaison Group of Civil Society. The LLL platform represents over 40 European-wide civil society networks in the field of education, from early childhood to adult education, including formal, non-formal, and informal learning providers and learners. And from Italy, I also am very glad to welcome Marianna Marcucci, a crowd dreamer who believes that change can only come from exchanges, ideas, and opinion. She's always trying to find unexplored connections between people to create new communities. Marianna focuses on helping them develop projects linked to the world of culture and tourism, while seeking fresh opportunities for communication. Over the past year, she has concentrated on the possibilities offered by the web linked to travel, arts, and culture industries. And in this context, she co-founded Invasioni Digitali, an initiative that promotes the value of an engagement with local cultural heritage. So welcome everyone once again. I have a very nice introductory question, which is actually for all of you, and the intention is to warm up a little bit. And the question is about your most memorable learning experience in relation to culture, and why you can define it as the most memorable. Michael, you want to start?
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you so much, Altheo, and hello the other co-panelists and the guests here. Great to be here with you. Well, there's a lot. What comes to my mind is an experience some 3-4 years ago. In the introduction, it was said that I'm also in charge of e-twinnings. Some of you may know e-twinning. We bring schools together via a digital platform. And there we had some teachers presenting a project at a big e-twinning conference where they brought together sort of culture, education, citizenship. So what they did, and that was fantastic, because it was a teacher saying, I'm teaching ancient history, well, medieval history, not one of the most liked subjects very often by pupils. But then it was an Italian teacher, if I remember correctly, and she sort of taught. It was in the middle, in the aftermath of the what we call then the migration, the crisis. It's sort of 15, 16, 17, 2016, 17, and she was discussing migration with the help of pieces of arts in different centuries. How is this sort of shown? Different pieces of arts, as I said, in different centuries. And then was sort of using the cultural expression to discuss, on the one hand, the times, and on the other hand, also the problems of the time, the whole discussion about refugees. And she was doing it together with Italy and some with some Greek classes and Polish and Danish, if I remember correctly. So I really remember it because it was great, because she managed to put together culture, citizenship, education, and was using a digital platform for it. And that was really great for really, and she said she really got the pupils so engaged in a very lively discussions, that they were really suddenly, everybody was interested, even on medieval history, which is something she had some difficulties before. So she was a very successful teacher using a combination of culture, education, and digital.
Thanks a lot. Your story actually is linked to many of the scenes that have been developed by the students of our project Crowddreaming. It would be nice for you to go around and check similar scenes in the platform later on. Brikena, you any memorable experience with cultural education from your side?
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Altheo, for introducing us and to World Digital for this very great event. I was actually very inspired by the presentation just before, and I wanted to suggest to give my time to it as we were running late. But yeah, when it comes to my experience, actually, I was since children, I mean, since a kid, I was part of the culture house in my hometown, dancing, music, culture activities. So I kind of feel like culture was my first door to the, I mean, to the world in a way, and it helped me a lot to learn a lot of things about the country I was living, and the culture and its culture, its values, its attitudes, and experiences. So it was an experience that I still remember up to today, and that taught me a lot of things that I can still use today. And I continue to be a volunteer in the culture sector here in Brussels as well, in a culture association that tries to promote culture exchange between Belgium and Balkans, because I'm from Albania originally. And I can see at every activity that we organize how we can use culture to really create social cohesion and social inclusion. And I really believe in this strength of culture and education to create that social cohesion. So for me, it's really a learning environment that I really like. So yeah, it's all over my life. Let's say culture has been quite important.
Thanks a lot. I don't know if you heard about this very new initiative, Porto Santo Charter, that has been promoted, will be promoted by the Portuguese government for the presidency period. And the main topic is definitely social cohesion. The challenge is now to see how art, heritage, and education can really contribute strongly to enhance democracy and going back to a new democracy in Europe. Marianna, you want to share your experience?
Hello, thank you for inviting me. Absolutely. I'm giving sort of self-reference, sorry now, because the most memorable experience that I had concerning culture is when I first met all the people who I'm working with today, and like historians, cultural operators in general, all my partners today in the project, in Invasioni Digitali, it's digital invasions in English. And I was working in the digital field. I was already working in the digital field, but related to tourism mostly. And when I met them, we just found so many things related to travel, tourism, and culture that, you know, it was like, it has been like a wow, like a wow moment. And we realized that the cultural sector needed very badly the support and the help of the digital world. We are speaking about, I'm speaking about like 6 years ago. So when like museums and cultural organization had like a sort of 90 layouts, websites, etc. So it was really a turning point in my life, because starting from there, we started working a lot with cultural organizations and museums, and, you know, like trying to valorize and promote the cultural heritage of every country. So yeah.
Thanks a lot, Marianna. And Hannes, the floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you. And when you asked me about my learning experience, or my last learning experience in relation to culture, it was just a couple of minutes ago when I saw the presentations. And for me, to answer the question, you said it's a warm-up. It's quite a tricky question. But for me, a memorable learning experience is and was when you are together with a group or you do it with a team. And I'm in culture for a very long time. I was 16 years old when I started to engage in a cultural association, and we did organize the first punk rock concerts with a band. In English, it's called the Fire Extinguishers. And 2 years later, I was the chair of this cultural board. And I'm still the chair of this board, and you can imagine that's more for nearly 40 years that I'm heading this chair. But culture was always part of my learning life. So I think lifelong learning is very important, and I always benefited from learning by culture and with culture. And my most memorable experience was the process of the application of Bad Ischl, a city with 14,000 inhabitants, to become European Capital of Culture, which in fact will be in 2024. And it's an alpine area. It's a touristic area, also with World Heritage Site of Hallstatt, which used to be flocked by people from Eastern Asia. Many times of the population of daily visitors. And this is also an interesting experience. And it was a process, and it's development of a rural area. And I think that is very important, because the future of the European Union will be decided in the rural areas. if you see Brexit, if you keep in mind that skepticism to the European Union is highest in the rural areas, then we have, Europe has to be felt in these areas. And the best way is culture, because culture is affecting all parts of the society, and it's the base for all developments. If you are well educated, and culture is education, then all the big challenges of our society can be tackled.
Thanks a lot for this topic, which is actually very relevant also, which was actually very relevant also for the Crowddreaming project. Michael, for example, one of the biggest challenge that we have identified in the Crowddreaming project by all the actors involved, teachers, tutors, project partners, it was related to the equal access to distance and digital learning. Imagine that 33% of participants in project come from rural areas, from Italy, Greece, Croatia, and Latvia. And they have reporting on having outdated and insufficient equipment in some schools, including computers, tablets, etc. But also at home, and problems of different nature, especially due to the internet infrastructure. Well, the European Commission is not directly responsible for this, that is clear, but it has also a significant impact on the implementation of the Digital Education Action Plan, and assuring that programs like Erasmus Plus are really inclusive, especially when considering virtual mobilities and digital participation in activities and beyond. How do you see this challenge at the European Commission level, and what are possible short and long-term solutions?
Thank you very much. It's a question that comes very often, and it's a very serious question, the availability of IT infrastructure. It's been a concern before the pandemic. It's, of course, we've seen the gaps now much more in a much more important way, and now it's become much more serious. And well, a straightforward reply is sort of, okay, need investment. We have now managed to have these big investment possibilities with the recovery resilience facilities, and a lot is happening there. Frankly speaking, this is easy. I mean, it drives me crazy, being German, that a country like Germany, which is quite well developed, still has problems of digital infrastructure. It's ridiculous. I mean, you dig a few cables, you dig a few things in somewhere, and then, I mean, it's really, I mean, where are we here? So I think this, I mean, the good news is I think it's an easy solution to it. You just put a few cables and you put money, and then it's rolled out. And I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. It's a big problem, but it's something where the solution is pretty easy to bring about. I'm a bit more worried when we look at education culture, sort of on the needs that to make good use of it. I mean, in the Commission, we for years now also had some fights with countries that we do not only want to pay infrastructure or pay them the computers, if I talk of education, but we also force countries to say, okay, we invest in teacher education, for example, how to use the things properly, because it's not enough. I mean, I'm not telling you any news here, that it doesn't need a computer only, it needs, you need to think a bit how to use it strategically and how to use it in the best way. And that's what you're discussing here today. So I think I'm a bit more worried, or actually I think we need to be more think about, and perhaps because I'm working in the area here of rather education. So I leave the infrastructure to other people, to the engineers. I'm not an engineer, they will take care of it. We should rather think, how can we support teachers and other staff to make an intelligent use of all the great possibilities that are there, and to make it accessible, because the differences that you see in terms of having access or not, it's linked to availability of hardware, but it's also to schools being better equipped in terms of the knowledge of the teachers, of the support that is available at home to kids from disadvantaged backgrounds, support from the local communities around, how many schools, how do schools reach out to local community, to NGOs, to cultural associations like the one Brikena has been active in order to make it happen and to use the digital opportunities in an intelligent way. So I'm much more concerned about that, because also in that area you have a big social divide, and I'm more concerned of that part than with the cables.
I have to admit that I share your concern. Being the chair of the European education community for the last 2 years, I see the problem in relationships, because you always have to find a common territory among also different people working in different sectors, like in our case, education and culture, that seems to be the same level, but definitely the level is the same, but the language, the taxonomy is different, and this is a challenge. The challenge is also identify the Kickstarter, no, the point where to start. And non-formal education providers regularly encounter obstacles when trying to collaborate with schools. This is a fact. Whatever it is because of regulations, somehow rigid curriculums that limit the extent of extracurricular activities, and such as international projects like Crowddreaming, for example. So when another sector, in our case, which is cultural sector, is added to the mix, things can complicate further. My question is now for Brikena, what changes would be needed to stimulate the cooperation between cultural, education, and non-formal learning providers even more?
Well, the Lifelong Learning Platform itself, it's an organization that gathers different sectors of education, being them formal, non-formal, and informal learning environments. So already from that, we promote the cross-sectoral cooperation. So we try to encourage more cooperation between these different learning environments. But a major obstacle to that is really first to recognize learning environments on beyond the formal education systems and training systems that as we know it, recognizing culture as a learning environment in its own. It's actually the first step to overcome the obstacles of cooperation, like you said, of the culture organizations and schools. This, of course, varies a lot in the member states. You have very good examples of cooperation as you have very bad examples of cooperation. Very often it can be just a bureaucratic obstacle. Sometimes it can be just a matter of head of the school that is not open enough. But at the end of the day, more can be done at national level to promote a more flexible curricula and to promote more flexible pathways, so that allow for more extracurricular activities, to open the doors of the schools to cooperate more in order for certain skills and competencies to be acquired with and through culture sector. So I think it's very important that we create this flexibility, that we provide space to the schools and to the different learning environments to create synergies between them. And back in 2018, we came together with the Culture Action Europe to call on European institutions and the member states to really provide more cross-sectoral cooperation and to have a European strategy on how to bridge between education and culture, because it's very important that we do so, and that can only be done if we recognize also culture as a learning environment, if we recognize non-formal education providers as learning environments that on its own that have their legitimate and they have their and they actually have a different alternative education purpose that maybe might fit better to certain learners. In many cases, non-formal education is also closer to the marginalized groups in the society. So it's very important that we recognize all learning environments, and I think that's the change that we need to make. Once we recognize that, I think the other obstacles, it's a matter of time and a little legislative procedures here and there But if I can say one last thing, also we need to give the example on the political level as well, meaning that also ministries of culture and education should work more together, but also at EU level, the Creative Europe program and Erasmus Plus program should also have more synergies together. So we should lead by examples to really create more links between these sectors. It's happening, of course, but it depends very much on the individual motivation and on the individual openness to culture and education. So I would say this is, in my opinion, an important step we need to make.
And this is very interesting, now that the presence of these different layers that contributes to innovation in a way. You said exactly there is the need of examples at ministry level, EU institution, but at the same time, if you think about it, most of the time the most relevant examples of collaboration is at grassroots level. And how can we really make it to bring the grassroots activity to the level of EU institution? So this is a challenge. It's really a challenge, and it's something that probably with Crowddreaming just a little bit we managed to do, and I'm really happy about that. But Marianna, you actually represent the principle of think globally, art locally. And looking from a bird's perspective, it seems that we have all embraced digital dimension, events, meetings, projects. Everything has been digitalized with a speed no one imagined before 2020. But so is it also true when zooming this dimension to the grassroots level? How has the digitalization of collaboration, specifically between cultural and educational sector, played out on local level?
Yeah, thank you. I was smiling when you said grassroots, because all my work is based on this. So first of all, I totally agree with Brikena. Absolutely. I think that cross-cultural sector contamination is really, really, really important in every way. Think globally, act locally is actually what we are working on since years. And absolutely, everything is digitized. But I think that the real question is how it is digitized and how people are using these tools. Because we often forget that people have to use these tools. So, for example, during the first, unfortunately, round of this pandemic, a lot of museums have published like virtual tours, saying that they were embracing digital transformation. But a virtual tour, it's not digital transformations. It has to start from the people, from the communities. So act locally, for me, means that to remain relevant for organizations, they have to embrace all the changes in society. It's not just going digital. It's not just opening a Facebook page or a website or anything else. Because digital is people, virtual is real. So like, for example, I have a nice example of a museum during during last year. They wanted to do something related to audience engagement. So very often we connect audience engagement with digital. So audience engagement means that we are going digital somehow. But this museum in Utrecht, sorry for my pronunciation, it's the Catharine Convent in Utrecht. I know you can just correct me, sorry. And they have set up a miracle hotline for its community. So they were like curating a big exhibition. Obviously, they wasn't able to welcome people. So they used the telephone for their target audience. So they just set up a miracle hotline so people could like telephone them, and they were, I don't want to annoy with details, but they have concentrated on their audience. So I think that every cultural organization, every policies has to consider first the target of all the projects and all the learning materials, etc. So we have to consider that people are first. That's why when I hear grassroots something, I say, yeah, that's the way, because all the other things are just tools to use. So we have to define our goals, our objective, maybe our vision in all the projects, and then we can talk about digital transformation, digital tools, etc. We have to talk about people first. And for example, and then I stop. The hype on virtual tours in museums, according to Google Trends, last 4 days. So the first 4 days of the lockdowns, and then nobody asked for virtual tours anymore. And museums and cultural organizations lasted to propose virtual tours, and then and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, I think, you know, we have to talk about people first. Communities. Yeah.
This is a very nice message also for the political level, no? I mean, we have to talk about people. Hannes, mainstreaming is probably one of the buzzwords often heard in policymaking. A European cultural policy framework as well as educational are not, of course, exclusive competencies of the EU, but they do play an important part in stimulating innovation and collaboration. How do you see the intersection of cultural and education fields in the future, and how can these, from your perspective, contribute to the promotion of European values among young people?
When we listened to the other panelists just a moment before, when we were talking about their moments when they got into culture via education, then it was a very early stage of life. So this is a task for the education system to offer young people the possibility, the opportunity to get in contact with cultural experiences. And I'm working on a project for people older than 14 years, from 14 to 18, also to have access to an education about cultural development, cultural management, about contents, and they should be in the curriculums of our education system. As you have mentioned, it has to be done by the member states. But when we talk about young people and the European dimension, then there is no group in our society that is more affected to the idea of the European Union than young people. And there is no group with a higher acceptance of the European common values. So I'm very sorry, and it hurts when Brexit takes place and these young people do not play the role they should play. If you take into consideration the importance about Erasmus Plus, it was not the important it has. But Erasmus Plus is one of the programs of the European Union, as well as Creative Europe, that has made a significant contribution to
Just wait a second that you are muted. I don't know what happened. We cannot hear you. Okay, you are back.
Yeah, I was unmuted by the host. So must have been all of you. So, but let me bring back to mind that Erasmus Plus has boosted the personal, social, and professional development of over 10 million young people, almost half of them between 2014 and 2020. And Parliament was fighting very hard in the trialogue negotiations for a total of 26 billion euros to be available for the new Erasmus program that runs up to 2027. Of course, it's significantly less than the tripling of the amount requested by Parliament, and also me as a member of the Committee for Culture and Education. But in view of the current circumstances, it's a significant increase compared to the last period, which was endowed with around 15 million. The new program is more extensive than the previous one, and it is expected to triple the number of participants to reach up to 12 million people. It covers not only higher education, but all levels and types of general and vocational education, especially for young professionals. And since 2018, the European Year of Cultural Heritage, the program has also focused on opportunities for young people to learn more about cultural heritage by studying, training, gaining experience, and volunteering abroad. Erasmus enables young people to travel abroad to participate in heritage-related volunteering projects, and it supports many higher education programs that contribute to the protection and transmission of cultural heritage. All of this shows that education and culture are closely linked, and that effective protection of cultural heritage depends on well-educated and sensitized citizens. Just some important points. The importance of all types of education, formal, non-formal, and informal, relating to history and cultural heritage at all ages. The significance of including art, music, film and theater, design, architecture in school curricula, and its role in promoting European and global citizenship. The need for an integrated approach to cultural heritage, particularly in the fields of education, innovation and research, and the consideration of these fields in the strategy towards an European education area, which should be established by 2025. It will not be possible, we heard in a hearing last week, but it has to be our work to at least establish parts of the educational area by 2025, and to work to have it as soon as possible, because there are so many topics, so many important points that should be made in real. And digitalization plays a very large role in this process, and we have a digital divide, not only on the technical level, but also, I say, the laptop, the device, the computer device is the school book of our times. And not forget the school book. You still need the school book, but it's also an access to education. It offers an access to culture, and this is why we have to invest in programs. And when you say culture is and education is only in 2 programs like Erasmus Plus or in the Creative Europe, we have to take care that culture and education for young people is also part of the regional development funds, of the regional program. It's part of Interreg. It should be a part of all the fields where we are engaged in the European Union, because the most important factor of our society, of a good and sustainable development of our society, is education. And education, why culture, I have to add. So thank you.
Education and culture for all, this is the starting point. I do totally agree, and thanks a lot for your contribution. I think we have time for a last round of questions. Actually, this is just an opportunity for all you all to maybe contribute with a last I don't know, also information, but suggestion on how we can really make things different and change the future if you think about collaboration between these 2 main sectors, no? Cultural and educational sector. Is there anything special that we can take into consideration to stimulate this collaboration? Anyone who wants to contribute?
Yeah, I could break the ice if you want. Measures I think that have to be required to achieve the goal is, of course, strengthening Erasmus Plus program, strengthening all the amounts, the percentage in programs for culture and education. It needs an ambitious framework for European policy cooperation in education and training. It needs support, or to give support for member states reforms through the European semester, and the European funds must have a better targeting of the needs of these sectors. And some requirements, or more requirements for the European educational area, is the strengthening of the digital skills of the students, because there are great differences in the member states. So there is a digital divide, not only between different parts of our society, but also within the member states. And this divide has to be closed, because disadvantages would arise again. And of course, this needs a lot of investment in digital infrastructure, and we have very different possibilities. Early childhood education to achieve greater social equality. Member states must at least invest 10% of GDP in education. The teaching profession needs to be made more attractive, because there's a shortage of teachers in many countries, and these teachers must be well educated and also have this passion for culture, as the people have or had that we were meeting when we were young, and that brought us the fire for culture and to bring us to an engagement. Culture is not only to be passive and to watch it and to experience it. We should also be part of the process. The civil society should engage, and this is also a task for the educational system, not only to go into the theater, to go into the film, but to make creativity, to wake up the people. And we realize now in this COVID crisis how important it is for us, what we are missing. And also, of course, because it's more important, and it often seems in the European Union, not to be passionate, but to be also concentrated on the economical effects. We now know what importance the cultural and creative sectors have, and how many people work in these sectors. So this is what we have to bring in the minds of older people, and to enforce engagement in our civil society. So this is my message.
And you break the ice, definitely. Michael, I saw you were also volunteering to contribute.
No, it's well, thank you so much to Hannes Heide. He has said it all just now. But I mean, what I like in the thing we are doing, and is that, I mean, you meet people who really think together on how can they make a good job. I mean, because they love culture, or they want to be good teachers, for example. And by putting it together, very often it fits together. We see, if I said, let's say, as in charge of school education or vocational training, I mean, very often you also have motivation, bring them to learn something. And very often we see that if you bring education culture together, I mean, if these learners, then they can express something which is part of their own identity, they engage in the process. I mean, they become active because they understand it's about themselves. I mean, that's what I liked about the example I mentioned at the start. You were not discussing abstract concepts, but of something, but they're making the links between problems we have today, and you compare what others have done, what were the issues, where am I coming from in the past, and that made them engaged. And I think that's where we have to come in, and that's what's the good thing about Erasmus, that we can exchange and we learn from each other. And I mean, where I get the motivation for my job is then if I meet people who tell me, because I come from Portugal, but I have been able to discuss it from a colleague from Greece or the Netherlands, and this has really helped me to become a better teacher. Or my students have suddenly got new ideas. I mean, that's great, because then you get better learning, people become engaged, and the teachers become also more more active. And I think if we talk about teachers, I think that's the investment that has to be done. Really, how can we invest also in teacher education, teacher professional development, so that this idea of teachers also not working just on their own, but teachers as working in teams between the teachers, but also with other people around. That will be one of our priorities to discuss with countries who are in the end in charge of all this. So this recently someone told me it's collaborative professionalism. So how can we get this idea of teachers not being alone in the classroom, but discussing between colleagues? Why not the mathematics teacher with the arts teacher to discuss together how they can work together? It will be more fun for themselves. I'm pretty sure they will have lots of success for the learning of their pupils. And I think for me, it's also good to see it will have better results, but it's not only, it will have better results and it will be more fun for the learners and for the teachers. So I think if those two things come together, it will be good. And I think it simply works. I mean, when we promote key competences, there's a reason for it, that we have key competences which range from reading, mathematics to culture and citizenship. And we think bringing it together will have more engaged learning and will have really good results. And there Erasmus can help a lot with the exchanges and with the project. So I think this is a great day for us all with the new Erasmus program being launched. Very happy. It's been many years of hard work and discussions. So now I think we have a good framework. And then now I think if you could all help also to promote it at the local level, to really, if those who are successful, if you go to your neighboring school or your neighboring vocational, whatever institution and say, it has worked with us, would you want to try it? The national agencies and everybody will certainly be there to help.
Thanks a lot. Some longer deadlines would have been useful to promote it, but it's my personal.
It's the first year. We have a 7-year program. You're absolutely right. There will be new calls. There will be new calls.
Marianna,
if I may briefly, obviously, given all the things already said, that I agree. Obviously, given that cross-sector collaboration is always a positive, as always, a positive impact, so culture and education, I see a lot of potential because I work a lot with educators and teachers for Invasioni Digitali and for another project that is called Parole Ostili, non-hostile communication. I talk a lot with educators and teachers, and obviously there are some bureaucracy that just, is in the middle of the collaboration between teachers and the students. But I have seen that a lot of teachers are angry about new methods to teach and a new way to engage the students, because sometimes the subjects and the methodology and the stuff that they have to work, it's not up to date. So the starting point probably is that they need tools and methods and to learn and try to understand how to innovate in education. The last thing, I think that a cultural organization has to reconnect with local communities a lot, for teachers too, because when we have worked with Invasioni Digitali, with teachers, they have seen that when students were very interested in the local events, local happenings, local museums, all the, how can I say, their parents and relatives were not aware of what they were doing. So there's a great example. The Victoria and Albert Museum has created a project that is called VNA East. It's for the community of East London. And the goal is to relocate the museum and consider the place where the museum is, not just a place, but a community of people. So I think that we can absolutely make a greater collaboration between education and culture, engaging in local community with local communities.
What's the opinion of the lifelong learning platform then?
Yeah, well, for us, I mean, education and culture are both beneficial to each other. So they enrich each other in both directions. And therefore, I mean, the cooperation between them, it's obviously always having a positive impact in many different ways, being it by acquiring new skills, being it by triggering curiosity of learners, being by making people, empowering learners, empowering people, empowering citizens to become engaged and active part of the society. So there are so many positive impacts that cooperation can really lead to. But I think very often also culture has taught to the education system and to the teachers so many new methods. So I want to build on also what Marianna said. Some members of the platform, for example, that work with marginalized groups, migrants, refugees, or people with certain disabilities, they actually use culture as a way to teach new things to them in a different way, in a more intuitive way. And I think it has taught to the education system also how to innovate learning and teaching methods. So it's very beneficial in that regard as well. So I really think that we should continue to improve that cooperation by making it possible at the lowest level possible and at the earliest age possible. Like I said, in my experience, it was really, I think I'm biased, but the fact that I'm still here today engaged in civil society in a way was also because I was so engaged in culture from early ages. And I think the fact that culture triggers curiosity to learn more, it helps young people also to become lifelong learners, because it's, as you know, it's very important for being a lifelong learner to have the capacity and competence of learning to learn from early ages. And culture can really help in that regard. So I really think that we should focus at the earliest age and at the lowest level possible throughout all life at how we can engage people in the society through culture and education. So this will be my obviously main message, and I fully support what was already said, so I don't have to repeat it. Thank you to all the other panelists as well for stressing out some of the points. And yes, I'm also disappointed of the deadlines of the Erasmus Plus, I have to say, especially for newcomers, because it's difficult to put together in a very difficult moment we are living in the middle of the pandemic, in such a short time, a good proposal for cooperation and creating partnerships in the digital age, forced digital age at the moment. It's also extremely difficult. So just wanted to share that as well. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone, but there are 2 rounds for small-scale partnerships. So one in November. Then we have studied already. We were waiting a lot. Well, I really want to thank you all. Before leaving you and giving back the Zoom, I have learned, I have to say it this way, to Borut, I would like to ask all the people participating if we have triggered your curiosity, if you want to ask anything to the panelists. I know that so far no direct questions have been provided in the chat, but still we have some minutes to collect them. I don't know if there is, I'm checking the general chat, so please someone, if there is another communication channel, just let us know. So chat is only one. Okay, Borut. No questions from the audience so far.
I assume that I can take over. No? Yes?
Yeah, of course.
Well, first, thank you very much to all of you for this interesting debate. Sorry, I apologize for attacking Michael on the subject of Erasmus Plus. That wasn't scripted, but you know, c'est la vie, or how we say it in Brussels. But definitely, thank you so much for taking the time, coming to this panel debate and contributing on the discussion that are going on. After 2 hours, we came to a time to take a break, a short 15-minute break. I think we have a lot to think of, to take on. But I would also like to share with you this URL, this website address. If unfortunately you cannot stay with us until the end and join us for the virtual tour of the Europa Square, do check it now or do check it later. Just bookmark this website address, and see you in 15 minutes.
Or this.
Back, everyone. These 15 minutes really flew by like nothing. So we are in the last third of today's event, and you can see the flow. We started with some inspiring practices of what is possible. We were dealing with concrete policy and also not just policy, real problems that civil society organizations, educators, schools, teachers, policymakers are dealing with, are addressing. We heard what are the plans, and what's really good and motivating is that I think that we are all looking into the same direction, and that the future collaboration of cultural and educational fields is very much bright if we manage to realize, to implement the ideas and the motivation that is out there. And I'm sure that we all share and all agree with what was said by all the speakers, and we all aspire to achieve or to try to replicate experiences showed by Matevž and Gunnar. Now we are zooming back into the project, and we would like to present you our results of 28 months of work, of what we did and what we achieved, and then of course at the end to go and see the many times mentioned Europa Square. So when we speak about our project results, it's initially I would like to remind us all and explain to those who don't know the aim of the Crowddreaming Youth Co-Create Digital Culture project. So the idea was to disseminate and scale up at European level a good practice, the Crowddreaming methodology, in Italian good practice, which is a good practice in the field of valorization of digital cultural heritage as a means for an inclusive education and promotion of European values among youngsters. The Crowddreaming methodology follows the U-shaped theory developed at MIT Institute. It's too long to explain now, but please do visit our website. We have Art of Crowddreaming handbook there if you would like to dive in. But what is important to explain to you now that we took the practice and scale it up by also simplifying it and making it accessible, understandable, and usable for teachers and young people of the age between 13 and 19 years old to use it. So the plan was to go from Italian good practice to a formalized methodology that can be widely used. You can see here the timeline. We began in January 2019 and we end up in April 2021. The thing is that in between also the COVID-19 pandemic started, which initially meant that we prolonged the project for 4 months and that we had a lot more difficulties in implementing these stages that are presented here. So we started with the bottom-up research with coaching circles, which is a special methodology for peer-to-peer learning and mutual support. We used the coaching circles as the prevailing method in 2 stages of the project. Initially, to analyze and identify the needs of teachers and to understand what they need in terms of teaching methodology, teaching materials, what kind of support do they need, so they are able to replicate the methodology and implement it in their own classrooms. And through that, we developed the Crowddreaming transfer model, which we then developed further by designing CDDC learning program. The CDC learning program is based on a massive online course, MOOC, which we developed in the partnership in the length of 36 hours. 26 hours are basically the learning on the online platform, and the 9 hours are again coaching circles. Here the coaching circles served as a peer learning experience between the teachers to share the experience and to also share the plans of how to implement the Crowddreaming methodology in the classes together with their pupils, with their students, to create the Crowddreaming scenes, which are then which has become a part of the digital monument called Europa Square. So the MOOC was designed, implemented, there's a whole curriculum, and there's also a toolkit that we prepared as a support for all the teachers and tutors using the methodology. And then we moved to the next stage, which was piloting of the Crowddreaming methodology. The COVID-19 hit the project already in the stage of implementing the MOOC and with the teachers training, which basically prolonged the period. and it completely changed how we plan to implement the workshops with pupils and students. They were supposed to happen as a face-to-face activities in schools and classrooms, but of course, as everything else in the last year, everything was moved online. This caused quite a lot of problems in terms of resources available, accessibility, and extended the piloting periods of the Crowddreaming methodology significantly. But despite that, we managed to fight it through, mainly to great efforts of our project partners, of the teachers, of the tutors, and also the students themselves. Nobody gave up on the project, even though the times were quite tough. And then analysis and evaluations came in because we designed special evaluation framework with the questionnaires for all target groups to gather feedback on the methodology, on the learning materials, on the MOOC, take it back and going back to the drawing table to see what we can improve before finalizing the project results. And this is then the upgrade and transfer of the methodology, and basically this is now the month of March 2021. So a bit more organized overview of the project results. So we have the training needs analysis and report and the transfer framework. I'll just jump in. All the results are available at the website of the project. Most of them are available in 5 languages, besides English, also in Italian, Croatian, Greek, and Latvian. And this training needs analysis helped us understand what kind of curriculum do we need to develop and what kind of learning outcomes, objectives, content we need to prepare. Based on the curriculum, we developed and launched the massive open online course. Initially, we planned to last 8 weeks, but as I said, it lasted much longer, and it had 6 modules. One about the art of Crowddreaming, the second one about the project development, so to support the teachers on preparing the process of building the digital the digital scenes, on the digital tools for digital content creation, storytelling, about the digital cultural heritage as a general topic, and also media literacy. Also, this MOOC is available in 5 languages and will be open after we complete the upgrade to everyone. The upgrades should be complete by mid-April. If you're interested in taking part, and if you are, please do contact us before that, and we can arrange the further collaboration when the MOOC will be available again. So then we have 2 very important documents from the project. One is report on the design, implementation, and delivery of the MOOC, and the other is the experimentation report. This one is about the piloting of the Crowddreaming methodology. Some statistics for the MOOC. We actually got applications from 286 teachers from all 4 countries. We selected 150, and 137 completed the MOOC, which is over 90%, which is an incredible number for a MOOC. And we are so proud and so proud on us for doing the good job, and very thankful for all the teachers that took the time and completed during the pandemic period. And a big thank you here also to all the national tutors who played a crucial role in supporting teachers, not only in their training, but also in the implementation of the Crowddreaming methodology through workshops with students. Experimentation report kind of in detail explains you how the workshops were being organized, what were the results, and what was the COVID-19 impact on the piloting. The COVID-19 impact is relevant also in a much broader sense to understand how the online learning, or how the change, the transformation from face-to-face activities to online activities is affected, or how it should be transferred in order to achieve the same or similar results. More than 1,600 students participated in the workshops, and they created 236 digital scenes. At the end, 80 were selected for Europa Square, but this is not the final number. Europa Square is there to grow. Europa Square is there to last, as Paolo says, for thousands of years. If the hard disks and internet will last that long, but definitely this is our footprint in the digital world that we want to upgrade, and we want to make it better, and we want to share it with all of you, and we want it to reflect our time and how we see it. Because of the really interesting keynotes, we skipped the policy recommendations and went directly to the panel debate. So now let's just quickly go through them, because they are important. In one way, they echo what was said at the panel debate. If it would have been the other way around, the panel debate would echo the policy recommendations, which is also really good. But when we speak about why we need the policy recommendations and for who, we need them to promote and support the transfer and further upscaling of the Crowddreaming methodology and exploitation of the project results. We need them to transfer it across Europe and to motivate more teachers, more system to use it, because it's not only us that see it as a good practice. The numbers and the feedbacks from the teachers, the students, and the tutors also confirm that. We target the policy recommendations to two target groups: educators. Here we talk about teachers, trainers, also youth workers, mentors, curators in the museum, though mostly on the teachers and maybe their headmasters, but they're relevant for everyone. And of course, also we target them at the policymakers on the whole vertical of them, from European level right down to the lowest local level. And what they're based on, I mean, how can we say that we have something relevant to say? Is it our opinion, or we have some backing up? We do have a backing up, and not to repeat too much, because I kind of explained this before, but we have a backup in the project outputs we did, in the participants' feedback that we got, through the analysis and evaluation of project activities, especially the MOOC and the workshops where the digital scenes were created, and of course also the partners' experience and expertise. None of the partners is completely new in the field of cross-sectoral cooperation, and we also learned a lot in the past 28 months while implementing the project. So to quickly go through the policy recommendations, I selected 4 for each, but there are more, and also policy recommendations are available on our website, and you are kindly invited to take a look at them. So the first one is, and it also echoes what Michael was saying: invest in teachers' training to propel the use of new teaching methodologies and technologies for distance learning. Invest in the training. That's definitely needed, and it brings results. I mean, in the language of economy, the return on investment is enormous. So definitely something that we highly recommend. Provide equal conditions for distance learning. Yes, the cables are easy to put in the ground, but that have been an easy task for quite a long time, but still 33% of our participants struggled because of unequal conditions. And here we don't talk only about the internet connectivity, but also about the equipment. There's a difference between how equipped the schools are in the urban areas and how the schools are equipped in the rural areas. This needs to be addressed. The next one is that the interesting topics like digital tools, augmented reality, are captivating and stimulate motivation engagement in teaching and learning activities. Teaching and learning should be fun, And projects like Crowddreaming very much underline that and we saw that in many of the feedbacks and reports from teachers when they say that the young people were very interested in collaboration in the project, and sometimes they were even surprised how much interest they caused. So these kind of projects, these kind of topics definitely spark also the desire to learn even more than the teaching and learning does in, let's say, the classroom, just the formal educational setting. And the last, but definitely not least, there should be some kind of simplification of rules and procedures that allow and enable teachers to get involved in the extracurricular activities. This is also based on the feedbacks we got from teachers, where sometimes in some cases, the bureaucratic procedures were kind of disheartening for them, and some took just ridiculous amount of time to get for them to be able to participate in a project that in the end brought such positive impact for the school, for the students and pupils and the teachers themselves. So I'm sure there's a way to avoid this kind of holdups from processual state of mind. And we quickly go through the policy recommendations to policymakers. Here we also have 4. One is promote and support the STEAM approach in education. Crowddreaming project also shows that how beneficial teaching outside of the silos is, and how beneficial connecting different subjects and different approaches towards education and teaching is. And we count ourselves with the methodology we developed under the STEAM, and we definitely call upon the policymakers to consider it more and relate to it more in the future policy documents. The next one then is actively support development of a more flexible and interdisciplinary oriented curriculums. No matter from which angle we look at it, the curriculums are defined by a legislative material, by legislation. And here we need an intervention from either the states or governments or regional level, depends on the country and how the things are organized, how the competences are distributed. But this is something that we also heard from the panelists to call for, and it would be really great if this would happen as soon as possible, mainly on the national and regional, maybe somewhere local levels. The third one here is leave no one behind, which is again a reference to the equal access, to bridging the digital divide by providing adequate internet infrastructure and equipment in schools, but not just that, also to support the families and young people that cannot afford adequate equipment for distance learning. This is the basis for digitalized society. This is the basis that will enable digital transformation, and definitely a very, very urgent issue that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And the last, also to provide greater visibility to initiatives that use co-creation and peer-to-peer learning by offering more opportunities to present good and share practices, and also to motivate public employees to attend these kind of events, to also learn about these kind of initiatives. A lot has been done in this field, especially on the European level, in the last, let's say, 5, 7, 10 years. But definitely more of these opportunities would be very much appreciated, because sharing of knowledge, sharing of experience is also the key to improving the legislation, to improving the different programs that are run and implemented, and to increase the quality of education in general. So this was quickly an overview of the project results, and now we go for even more substantiative presentation, and I give the floor to Paolo Russo, to present you the Europa Square and make the introduction to what will be a virtual experience later on. Please, Paolo, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you, Borut. Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here finally today after a very long run, as everybody said already. And now my role is to show you how Europa Square works. And it will be a very risky role because it will be a live demonstration. So let's hope that everything works. To start with, just a little bit of context. Let's remember, as it has already been said, that the Europa Square platform was one deliverable of one of the 3 deliverables of the projects. And sorry, I'm receiving audio in my headset from Europa Square, so it's it will be okay. They stopped talking, and so I'm saying it was one of three deliverables, and this is a small teaser. Okay, now this was just the cool video to just raise some attention, some curiosity, and we are going to see it in a few seconds. 2 main concepts about what we did. It's not just a cool game-like environment. To start with, it is the most important thing, as it has been said already, is that we wanted really the youngsters understand that not everything has been invented at their home, that our culture is the result of an overlapping of contributions from all over Europe. It is not an easy task, but I think that we managed, and you will see the result in a couple of minutes. And even better when you will join us for a guided tour. The second very important thing is that we are trying to make the young people face the reality of the digital dimensions of reality, trying to make them think about it, and the digital monument tool, conceptual framework, is a very powerful tool. It is a challenge to them to try to imagine what that means. Not just digitizing or digitalizing an existing monument, but building something that it is natively digital and will live maybe for millennia. This has been a very challenging task. And did it work? Well, I will let you see a graph here, and which is the one about the visit to the websites. On March 2021, the Europa Square kicked in, and you can see the difference in the visits to the website. So I'm quite confident in saying that yes, it works. It is a good engaging tool. Other numbers, you have already heard about the numbers of participants to the project. Now, in 2 weeks since we opened, we already have more than 2,000 registered users, and they keep growing. So probably this moment we have some more. Our target is 5,000, and we are confident that we will reach this target, since Greece and Latvia are starting in the very next days to engage people to the platform. So I think we are quite good. And also, again, it works. We are already exploiting it. The project is not yet finished, but we are already exploiting it. because a very important Italian association for cultural heritage, for preservation of cultural heritage, saw the platform and they wanted it for their educational activities of this year with the schools. So we have more than 2,000 students coming to the platform in the next couple of months. So we are very happy with all of it. Now, I will stop just talking. I will start showing, and this is an aerial view of the Europa Square Orientation Center. As Borut said, this is important, I don't have to forget, as Borut said, pandemics hit this project hard as every other project and everyone in his life. The original plan was to create an augmented reality installment, and we did it anyway, and it is already available at every school. They didn't see it yet because we can't assemble, we can get together and use this in the same place, in the same square, these tools. So we decided also to create a virtual reality version, and this is what you are going to see here. It can be visited just using a personal computer. Now, let's go there. Now we start moving in the virtual environment for a very quick visit, just to give you a look around. And oh, we have already some people here. Okay, so you can see a lively demo. And I hope that they will not make any more noise while I show. So it is, you can move around. Oh, we have also a very important VIP visiting us today. Okay, let's hope for the better. And so we can, hi, Santa Claus, nice to meet you. And it's a great example of a transcultural element. It's from all over Europe. Just to say, it is very easy, as in any video game, to go around. And this is an environment for social VR. So we could start, chatting. Now I have my microphone closed, of course, in Europa Square because I am on Zoom, but I might also open my camera, so I could use a video conference inside here. I could share my screen. I could place pictures, files, PDF files. We work in this environment. Usually I could draw. Of course, I can say that I love Santa Claus, so I hope you will remember it for Christmas. And we can just chat. Hi, Santa. And that's, let's see whether he answers. But also I can just greet him in a cooler way. Hi, Fox. Okay, that's, he loves me already. And I have, okay, I also can create a comic, just so we can chat using comics. There are plenty of tools. Now it's not the time to, okay, Santa is very friendly, but he's supposed to be. Thank you. Sorry, but I have to leave. Sorry, but it is good to be nice to Santa. You might never know. Now, let's just go around a little bit. Let's go to Spain. It's easy. And for example, just one. So if you want to see all the scenes that the 80 schools created, you just go, you want to see the reason to thank Spain, go to the Spain area. I'm doing it now. And while it is loading, I'm just saying, if you consider each single one of these digital scenes in itself, okay, most are nice, but it's not so significant. But when you put 80 of them together, and hopefully more in the future, you will, let me switch the microphone off, hopefully. Okay. When you put all of them together, you really start seeing very interesting patterns. So I think I will just close my presentation here, just showing you how you can see the scenes. You go close to one of these panels. Most of them are active. You click on it, you see a video that presents the work made by the schools. Some of them you can see on its right. Some of them have a QR code because the schools developed small augmented reality experiences themselves. And using your smartphone, you can see them. Borut, it was a very quick tour, and we will be waiting momentarily with you there. And we'll show something more, and then you will be free to go around and meet Santa, maybe, and have fun, hopefully. So, Borut, thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Paolo. This was amazing. Say some nice words to Santa also in my name. You know, I also like a happy December. But before we move on, we actually want to open the floor for any questions, comments from the audience before jumping in on the platform. I don't think there is any. I think that Paolo did such a good promotion that nobody wants to talk here. You can always also ask the questions later on the platform. But we have one really important task before we go to the platform. And I'm calling on Sanin, Eleni, and Arnita to help me with that. And I give the floor to Sanin.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Croatia. I feel like it's Eurovision, like we have all the countries covered. 12 points from Croatia go to Italy. So let me just quickly start my slideshow. I have gotten the great task, the really honorable task of doing a little Thanksgiving scene in the manner of Crowddreaming methodology in the name of our partnership. So to really quickly start, the teachers that are already here really know this process well. So we have 3 points we have to cover, 3 questions to answer. So the Crowddreaming partnership thanks 15 national tutors, 56 schools, and amazing 1,631 students from Croatia, Greece, Italy, and Latvia. We thank you for your great work and your great contribution on this project. Your motivation, ambition, and hard work kept us moving forward for the past 28 months. Thank you all so much. And also in our national languages, in Croatian, hvala.
Paldies arī Latvijas skolotājiem. And on behalf of the DAISY Research Group of the Hellenic Open University, and of course the whole project consortium, and we say in Greek, σας ευχαριστούμε.
Grazie.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sanin, Eleni, Anita, and Georgia. And of course, also a big thanks from Brussels to all the teachers. So now the moment that I have been announcing since 2 o'clock is finally here. How are we going to do this? How are we going to all transfer ourselves to the Europa Square? my colleague Victoria will help me with this. We will create the breakout rooms where you will be randomly assigned to. In the breakout rooms, there will be our colleagues from the project consortium and all digital that will provide you with the link to go to the platform. You click on the link, you join the platform, and you enjoy the experience. That's it, as simple as that. And don't forget, you can always enter the platform from Crowddreaming website. This time around, you don't need to register, but if you want to come back, please do, because we would like to also have you in the database and maybe communicate to you before. And before you all go, because this is basically my last line that I can tell when I can address all of you. Thank you so much for joining the event. Thanks to all the project partners for helping us organize this and spread the word. We had many people coming in, which is amazing. Really thankful for your participation. Thank to all the guests, the speakers, the panelists. It's been awesome, and enjoy the experience in Europa Square, and see you around. And one big applause for everyone. I'll do it for all of us. And yeah, see you around. Take care. Stay safe.